Are you tired of conventional refrigeration equipment that drains your energy bills and fails to maintain consistent, precise temperatures? Look no further than a Danday refrigeration. With a Danday's innovative patented technology, you'll enjoy up to a 32% reduction in energy consumption compared to traditional refrigeration units. Cold air gently cascades around your food, preventing dehydration and preserving freshness like never before. Say goodbye to wasted space in your kitchen. A Danday drawers offer a large capacity and stackability, allowing you to optimize every inch of your storage area. Plus, the option to use the top of the unit as a worktop or fry basket holding station adds even more versatility to your setup. Ready to revolutionize your convenience store kitchen? Choose a Danday refrigeration for unmatched efficiency and performance, made for your convenience. Visit danday.com to learn more.
The key thing is people. You can dream up all you want, but if you don't have people out in the field that can execute it, you have to put in place a structure.
You're listening to the Future of Convenience podcast, brought to you by Global Convenience Store Focus, featuring senior retail executives and experts in the global convenience, fuels, and mobility retail industry. Hosted by Dan Munford, Nick Scherzer, and Carolyn Schnare. Welcome to the Future of Convenience podcast. I'm Carolyn Schnare, and I'm joined by my co-host, Nick Scherzer. Hey, Nick.
Hey, Carolyn. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well today. So today we're talking with the Vice President of Foodservice with Spinx, Jim Bressi, who's been a longtime friend of ours, traveled the globe together, you guys even more than I. So Jim, thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely. Pleasure.
Hey, Jim. Good to see you again.
Always great to see you both, especially Carolyn.
Oh, geez, thanks.
Jim, I had a feeling you'd say something like that. Jim, I guess just kind of jumping straight in, you're a professionally trained chef, and I think one of the things we wanted to really talk to you about today is how do you run a profitable food service program at scale across a network of gas station sites? You know, thinking about 100 sites, 200, up to 500, 1,000 sites, it's a challenging thing to do. But before coming on to that question and getting into that, like Carolyn said, we've known each other for many years going back, and had the privilege to travel to a number of destinations around the world looking at convenience stores, from Berlin to Rotterdam and a whole bunch of other places. And I remember about 10 years ago, we were in Rotterdam, and we had a group of about 40 people, I guess, there, and we went out for dinner. We were taken to a restaurant that was owned and operated by what was described as a chef, the Gordon Ramsay of the Netherlands. And we got to that restaurant. It was a really nice place. And within about 5 minutes, you were in the kitchen with the Gordon Ramsay of the Netherlands. You ended up helping cook dinner for the 40 of us on that trip. So I guess my question to you is, though, you know, beyond the fun and the personal experiences of those trips over to Europe, what has it been for you, and what have you taken away from those trips? What's the value been?
Oh man, it's just the exposure. You know, food is universal, and it speaks many, many languages. Like you're referencing, that chef, he didn't speak English, and I didn't speak, whatever language it is that they speak, because it's complicated. But you know, it is universal. So those trips to me are just extremely important because they open your eyes to the culture and the world around you. And you never know what you're going to find. You referenced that trip that we made to Berlin. We were on a specific mission that time. And when we stopped the first part of that trip was into Rotterdam. And I think you guys had prefaced the whole conference like, you know, this is one very compact country, the Netherlands, and they are one of the largest consumers of coffee per capita in the entire world. And that just seemed perplexing, you know, that's such a small country. But I understood it when we got there. We were on the hunt for the next great coffee program, coffee machinery that we could possibly find. And we found it. That trip changed the trajectory of where we were going with our coffee program. We were one of the first in the market to bring over, automated espresso machines that could make cappuccinos and, macchiatos and all sorts of coffee drinks that only baristas were producing over here, but we wanted to mimic that in the C-store environment. So those kind of trips, invaluable.
Now, I remember that well, and I remember you telling me after that trip how that had inspired you guys to implement and move your whole coffee program forward. And I think, to me, and we've seen it with many retailers over the years visiting, and it goes both ways, by the way. It's not just retailers coming from the US to Europe, but certainly we've seen European retailers visiting the US and taking a huge amount away in terms of learning and experience, and particularly around the conversation we're having today about how to operate food service programs at scale. And I've always kind of thought when you guys come over to Europe, we take you to the best of the best stores, which is natural on a study tour, and you see some really exceptional food service offers. I think conversely for me in the US, one thing I've always thought is that in general, the US operators tend to operate at scale a lot better. And particularly thinking about gas station network across a large number of sites. And I think, we'll come on to talking about Spinx and what you're doing in a moment, but what stands out to you in your mind as some of the key things that are required to run a profitable food service program at scale in a gas station network?
Yeah, well, you hit it on the head there. The U.S. is a very big country, and so we're spread out. So having to use scale is one of the things you have to figure out very early on. So, of course, the key thing is people, and you can't do anything. You can dream up all you want, but if you don't have people out in the field that can execute it, so you have to put in place a structure, and that structure has to be fully aligned with everybody in agreement that, hey, this is what we're doing. You get buy-in from, senior management, ownership, whatever, and then it is driven. And, we use our our food service field managers in order to pull those things off. Secondly is you have to have a unified kitchen arrangement, so that if you were to start shuffling people around, which is always necessary, or when you're growing, that you have the same equipment in the same spot. Now, sometimes the stores are just, the footprints are reversed, but the equipment is there and it's all familiar, I'll say. So you have to have that. And then one step further beyond that is that all that equipment has to be vetted. So much like the coffee machines itself, you got to make sure that they're going to hold up to the rigors of, 100 people an hour using them. Likewise, with your equipment in the kitchen, you have to have equipment that is very robust, that has maintenance programs, easy to maintain, those kind of things, easy to use. We love digital readout boards, so that, like on our ovens, we have pictures, that this is, you push the picture for cooking the eggs or the bacon or the biscuits or something like that. So those components, the equipment, the arrangement, and then the people really kind of set you up. That way you can kind of be back here in your office or your test kitchen, whatever, and say, yep, I'm going to make a new biscuit this way. You write the procedure up, you send it out, you talk about it, and off it goes. So one small just comment about that is we communicate a lot. And every 6 weeks, we have food and beverage managers in all of our stores. And then we have food service area leaders that are over those groups of, say, 10 to 15 stores. We meet with those people every 6 weeks in person, and we go through the program. Most of this time we're kind of reviewing some of the financial stuff or food audits or safety audits, that kind of thing. We go through that first, but then we talk specifically about what is it we're going to do next and how we're going to go about it and what we're promoting and those kinds of things. We get the live interaction, and everybody feels empowered and they're part of the team. They can ask questions, and we've become really good friends, over this time. We care about each other a lot. So.
And I think, Jim, going back many, many years when you and I worked together on just educating the industry on how to build a food service culture, I almost want to say I don't hear that anymore. I don't hear that term, building a food service culture, because I think we kind of did it. Like we nailed it. We ingrained that in a lot of the industry, and I just wanted to get your take on that. Do you believe that the company that you've worked with, you're really building a culture, and do you think that that's permeated throughout the industry here in the U.S.?
I really can't speak for a lot of others. They're my competition, so I kind of hope they're not doing it as well as we are. But I say that tongue in cheek because really we need to raise the tide, as it's been said. Because if everybody's doing things right, the whole trust level in the industry becomes that much higher. So whether you're going to stop at this guy or our stores, whatever, the sense that hey, the food there I can trust. So that culture, it's important. I think it's pervasive in others. I look to QSRs as a lot of competition, and for sure the culture is alive and well in those places. They have to. That's the only thing they got is their food program. They don't have people coming there because they have to get gas or they have to get a lottery ticket or a Coke or whatever. So I think smart people have a culture. So,
But Jim, it's interesting you referenced the QSR because while you were talking, that's what I was thinking, and kind of maybe Carolyn commenting on on your question, looking at the US food service programs in general across the various operators we visited over the years. That really does stand out to me, Jim, the kind of culture and processes and principles you're talking about. And it feels in some ways those are, I don't know if borrowed is the right term, but borrowed from the QSR type of industry and the thought process around how do you run this at scale. And you really do need to have those fundamentals in place. And I think the US, for a long time, and I'm talking about the US gas station convenience industry, for a long time has looked at the QSRs as the competition. And I think that's something that's really set the US apart in terms of being able to run food service programs profitably at scale in convenience stores in a gas station network.
Yeah, for sure. There are people in our industry that came from there. If you look at Spinx case in general, the first couple food service programs were franchisees. So be it a QSR of some sort, I won't name them all, but you can imagine when you pull up to a gas station what you see sometimes as partnered franchises. So there was an innate learning there. You had to deal with these franchisees and they had to make money, you had to make money. So there was obviously cross learnings there. So but when I look around at my peers, I know where some of their backgrounds are from. There's only one or two that have ever been in like fine dining, but the rest of them, have some sort of food background. The whole notion of having a chef in the convenience store industry is not novel anymore. And 15 or 20 years ago, when I joined the industry, it was. And fortunately, I went to work for a group that was very, had a lot of foresight and said, hey, if we're going to be in the food business, food is our future. We got to have somebody that knows what the heck they're doing, So it was very fortunate. So
yeah, just like you said, you were probably one of the first, as far as I know. So good job. You started a movement.
Yeah. There's a few others, ironically, guys that I went to school with and people that you're familiar with, guys like Keith Boston and Joe Chavera.
Mm-hmm.
We were all in college together in the same years. And
oh my.
And Bill Riley, another name.
Wow.
Bill was also an alumni where we all went to school. So it was sort of like a motion or a movement at the time. And
I didn't know that. That's so cool.
yeah, and we're still all friends. It's pretty cool.
Oh,
That is very
let me bring one thought in because we never really introduced Spinx, which is where you are right now. Can you tell me, like, real quick, just tell us about Spinx?
Oh, well, Spinx is an amazing company. It truly is. I'm just celebrating my second year here. As a matter of fact, it's today.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. And I just fell into it, as my mom would say. I got very fortunate in the people that are here. The founder, Stuart Spinx, started the company more than 50 years ago. He's a very dynamic man, incredibly intelligent, and he dipped the first piece of chicken in the fryer. He really did, and that is what we're known for: legendary fried chicken. We have beautiful stores. We take up, about 4 acres of land when we build a store. Our stores are about 7,000 square foot. They're very clean. They're high ceiling. They have full kitchens in them. Very clean bathrooms. We have all the displays that you would imagine. And we have incredible people. That's the other thing. The senior management here all came up through Spinx, and basically they're all been with Stuart and his son Steve, who is now our president and CEO. And Steve is just another incredible man, just very dynamic and thinking. These guys really know where the company is going and how to get it there. So working with this team has been amazing. The other thing I'll say about Spinx is that we're just really friendly. And being in the South, we're primarily located in South Carolina. We do have a few stores in North Carolina, and we're growing there. But it's the hospitality, that Southern hospitality that you've heard so much about, is genuine down here. And when you come into a store, you'll be welcomed, and then you'll be well fed, and then
and you'll get a good "y'all come back now" here.
Yeah, pretty much.
Jim, I was just going to say, every year when we see you at the NAC show, you invite us to come and see the stores, and we've got to take you up on that offer.
Yeah, you do. Point. You were close last year, but
very close, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to ask, just building off of that, when you're talking about being in the South, there's a very ingrained culture there too. So have you created the food service around that? I know fried chicken has been there for quite some time, but do you specifically seek out regional favorites, and do you even localize it per store depending on what part of the region you're in?
No, because it kind of goes back to what we were talking about as far as building the scale and making sure that you have a consistent offer everywhere. So, there are local areas like the Charleston is a separate market, and it's 4 hours from here. But we don't have any different offer in Charleston than we do up here, So it would be nice to be able to do some of those kinds of things, but I think it takes away from your overall brand standard. But some people might want to do that, and that's their prerogative. We just want a more consistent offer everywhere. We want the Spinx in North Carolina is the same as 6 hours away in South Carolina. So,
but Jim, I agree with you. I think that really provides a brand strength and a consistency, and it also, to your point about scalability, really allows the organization to be known for something and execute things very well. And I think that's one of the things we've seen as Europeans, I guess, across the US operators, is being famous for something. And so when you mentioned the fried chicken that Spinx is famous for, that really resonates. And I think it kind of reminded me when you were speaking earlier about some of the fundamentals that underpin a successful food service program. You used the phrase, "you can dream up anything," and then went on to talk about, okay, but how do you execute that? And I think that phrase, "you can dream up anything," kind of reminded me of Joe Boner, who you know well too. And he used to use this phrase that you need to be realistic about what your organizational capabilities are and execute within that framework. And I think it kind of goes to your point there about you've got to grow the organization, the structure, and be able to deliver that food service program. And sometimes, I guess, and I don't know whether you agree with this, Jim, but sometimes it seems like there's this desire to chase down the next food trend coming out of the major metropolitan areas. And sometimes, to my mind, when you're talking about food service programs at scale, in convenience stores, at gas stations, yes, you do need to innovate, you do need to try new flavors and things, but at the same time, the fundamentals are the fundamentals, and those things work well. And so if you're executing those well, you understand your customer base, that's kind of part of the secret Does that make sense to you?
Oh, you're very insightful, Nick. What you just stated is what everybody needs to keep cognizant of. You can't just dream up everything. You can't chase the coasts. You got to be able to work within your framework. And so a pragmatic approach is really the best approach. What are your people capable of? And then what is your facility capable of? Everybody talks about the next big thing. That's what led us to putting in bean to cup and automatic espresso machines across the nation. Look how ubiquitous it is now. It was unique 15 years ago, and it was totally accepted everywhere in Europe, but in the U.S., not so much. But you go into any convenience store today, and there's a bean to cup machine there. So, but are we going to go and put a cronut in every store, or whatever, fried chicken, or it's crazy because I love to read food. You can ask my wife Karen, which you both know. She's always saying his nose is in a cookbook or on YouTube watching stuff, but and it's all about food. And I do think we just had this conversation, my boss and I, the other day, is what's going to be new for 24, latter part of 24, 25. And we started spitballing some things, and we kept it in. So I would say one thing, and he goes, yeah, but is it portable? And he would say something, and I'd say, yeah, but is that really what we want to do? And so it's going to be a lot of that back and forth. But we are looking to put some unique things in place. We're going to basically spin off our legendary, that's one of our names is Legendary Fried Chicken, one of our taglines. Well, what about we do Legendary Fried Chicken and Southern Fare, and then we could branch off into that. And I was telling him, what if we were to reinvent some of these famous, Southern Fare dishes? He's like, are you going to do collard greens? I'm like, I might do a collard green fritter.
Ooh.
To make it portable, something like that. So we're having fun with that. We don't know what it's going to be yet, but we're having fun.
Yeah.
So.
I'm stuck on thinking about what a collard green fritter would be, and that sounds
awesome,
amazing. So now I'm just imagining that.
I know.
Well, Jim, we're going to have to try those when we do come and visit you. And,
for sure. Yeah,
for sure.
So, Jim, this has been fabulous being able to talk with you again. I hope to see you again. Maybe we'll both get across the pond one of these days. But on the flip side, when you guys come over, Nick, in maybe October or so, we can all check out some of your stores, because I've been down that way. It is a beautiful place. And as Nick tends to remind me frequently, why is your country so big? Like, it takes a while to get from one to the other, but I think it's well worth the drive for us.
Yeah. Every June the 6th, I get a picture of the three of us standing in front of the Brandenburg Gate. Hey, just one thing real quick, if I can. I just want to say all of this is possible because of Dan Mumford. Carolyn, you and I met before I knew Dan, but I wouldn't know Nick if it weren't for Dan. And Dan has changed my life in a lot of regards because of the exposure that he and the company and the vision that he has had. So, Dan, thank you. Appreciate you very much, and look forward to seeing you.
Jim, thank you for saying that, and I know that will mean a lot to Dan, and likewise, it's friends like yourself in the industry that really make this industry what it is, and so we appreciate your friendship over the years too.
Well, Jim, we thank you so much for your time today, and to our listeners, thank you for listening to The Future of Convenience. You've been listening to the Future of Convenience podcast, produced by Dan Munford, Nick Scherzer, Jenna Ferguson, and Lorraine Evans. It is produced, edited, and mixed by Carolyn Schnare, and music is provided by Jukebox Music. Tune in every other Friday for new episodes, and please subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. Learn more at globalconveniencestorefocus.co.uk.